Welcome to Bunny Trails, a whimsical adventure of idioms and other turns of phrase. I'm Dan Pugh.
And I'm Shauna Harrison. Each week, we take an idiom or other turn of phrase and try to tell the story from its entry into the English language to how it's used today. Have you ever been so fed up with someone that you were at your wit's end? You're ready to call the other person out, or maybe it's a company. You're ready for them to answer for their claims or their actions. So you challenge them. You throw down the gauntlet.
I thought at first that you were going to make this episode at your wit's end, and I was like, I think we've done that. Have we done that? I think we've done
So
that.
like
Did you write a whole
like,
episode for something we already did?
I have.
Oh, no.
I
have done that once. All right, so throwing down the gauntlet. What does this mean?
According to Oxford English Dictionary, the definition is, quote, to give a challenge from the medieval custom of throwing down a glove or gauntlet, end quote. The phrase throw down the gauntlet has several variations, including to cast out the gauntlet, to fling out or down the gauntlet, to throw the gauntlet, and in French, jeter le gant.
Okay, so we should be clear here, though. Gauntlet is a type of glove, a protective glove.
Yes, it's like an armored glove that went with a set of armor.
Well, it doesn't have to be armored, but medieval times it was. But yes, that's what most people think of. But yes, it's a protective glove for fighting and that kind of stuff.
Right. So before we get further into this phrase, I want to quickly mention two similar and somewhat related expressions. To take up the gauntlet means to accept a challenge, and to run the gauntlet means to endure a series of difficulties, criticism, or punishment. So while these phrases sound alike and one is based on the same medieval tradition, they developed separately in the language. So today we're just focusing on gauntlets that are thrown.
All right.
I love this phrase. This is one of those expressions that is rooted in something people actually did in real life. It was a well-established medieval custom. Throwing down one's gauntlet publicly was a literal gesture of defiance or honor challenge. And if another picked it up, it meant the challenge was accepted. So
no taking off the shirts and going at each other?
This was usually more formal, like duel style or an arranged,
the
like
gentry.
I'll meet you outside after school kind of.
Okay, I'm following.
Yeah. So, and public, a lot of times this was like in front of the whole, everybody who's anybody kind of deal to make a statement. So along with the challenge.
I see.
We can see a great example of the phrase in its literal usage in the work commonly known as Hall's Union, Richard III. Compiled by Edward Hall, the full title is The Union of the Two Noble and Illustrious Families of Lancaster and York, being long in continual dissension for the crown of this noble realm. Here's an excerpt. Quote, making a proclamation that whosoever would say that King Richard was not lawfully king, he would fight with him at the utterance and throw down his gauntlet. End quote.
All right. So, literal usage. Okay. Yeah. Literally throwing his gauntlet down to say, let's fight.
Don't say that he's not the lawful king, because somebody will challenge you to a battle. Yeah. So, in William Hendy's 1629 work, A Faithful Remonstrance of the Holy Life and Happy Death of John Bruin, we find an early example of the phrase used figuratively. In short, this is an early figurative usage of throwing down the gauntlet applied to a spiritual or moral confrontation rather than a literal one. Quote, and casting out, as it were, his gauntlet of defiance against all the most sharp and dangerous assaults that might encounter him and be made against him, he challengeth them all. Quote. So it goes on to liken his defiance to Paul, like St. Paul. So interesting. In the passage, the phrase casting out, as it were, his gauntlet of defiance is that figurative usage. He's described as preparing spiritually for death. Throwing the gauntlet is symbolic of that spiritual courage, defiance against fear and suffering and death. And it's not literal at all. There's no physical challenge happening there.
Right. It's hard to fight the devil when the devil doesn't exist.
Right. This is a great example of the shift in the phrase from a chivalric gesture to a broader metaphor for boldly facing or challenging adversity. The phrase was seen in the July 31st, 1793 edition of the Gazette of the United States out of New York, New York. Quote, "You did not hesitate at that moment when your coasts were infested by a formidable fleet, when your territories were invaded by a numerous and veteran army, to pronounce the sentence of eternal separation from Britain, and to throw the gauntlet at a power the terror of whose recent triumphs was almost coextensive with the earth." End quote.
Formidable fleet.
Yeah.
Infested by a formidable fleet. That is a
Tongue twister.
well, I mean, I wasn't even thinking of the tongue twister component. I was thinking about the fact that that's just a very evocative phrase.
Yeah, it is. So obviously, this is clearly used figuratively in this example, and it's in this case referring to issuing a bold challenge, specifically the American colonies declaring independence from Britain. So, which at the time was pretty bold. The Weekly Comet, August 13th, 1854, out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, included this excerpt. Quote, "We take upon ourselves the championship, and now that we have the expressed feelings of a respectable body to justify us in the warfare, we throw down the gauntlet and defy all and singular, every jot of power that can be brought against us." End quote. In the article, we learn that a member of a secret society or order, the Masons, the Oddfellows, or the Sons of Temperance, died after a lifetime of community service. His body was claimed by the Catholic Church, who held services for the deceased, and multiple members of the orders were not allowed entry to the services. The three orders spoke together on the topic, likely to protect their secrecy. But they were challenging the Catholic Church. So,
Yep, that'll get you that'll get you problems.
yeah. So, talking about bold, we're just digging into it.
Right.
The Birmingham State Herald, June 21st, 1896, out of Birmingham, Alabama, included the phrase being used as a marketing gimmick on a full-page ad for J. Black & Sons, one-price cash closers. Quote, "We throw down the gauntlet. As in the days of ancient chivalry, let them who dare pick it up. Despite the enormous business we have done during the past month, the stock brought at the recent forced sale is still very large and must be sold. The prices we name in our forced sale will go thundering down the ages as the most remarkable sale, remarkable in cheapness of prices, remarkable in the beauty of the goods that are on sale." End quote. It kept going, but I think you get the gist.
Right.
The Daybook, November 22nd, 1916, out of Chicago, Illinois, includes the following. Quote, "After assuring Brotherhood leaders that organized labor of the nation was behind the railroad men, man for man, Gompers made this statement that carried away the House. All that I, as a man, can say in answer to you men of wealth is this. Be careful, you are going too far, for there is a limit to human endurance. You throw down the gauntlet, and we of the working class will accept the challenge and fight. Benjamin Schlesinger, president of Ladies Garment Workers International Union, announced that a strike would be called in Chicago within 3 weeks that will affect 10,000 women employed in the waist, petticoat, skirt, wrapper, and corset industries of Chicago." End quote.
I just sometimes fail to think about all of the industries that are out there, because the fact that there is a waist, petticoat, skirt, wrapper, and corset industries and they're all their own industries that just I'm just like, wow, okay, wow.
So right, and you had 10,000 women amongst that who were planning to strike. Yeah, so that when this was 1916, so that's a big time for that kind of thing and that kind of level of production to really be hitting the scene, and women being overworked in factories. Good times back then.
Yeah. Oof.
So here, in the statement that was made by Samuel Gompers, he used the phrase not just to talk about what was going on, but also to rally the working class against the overreach of the wealthy. Again, a pretty bold thing to do at the time, but this was also intended to be heard by others and encourage those outside of those industries to, join the fight kind of deal. The phrase makes it into a comic strip in the Bismarck Tribune, dated November 3rd, 1937, out of Bismarck, North Dakota. It appears in the strip The Gumps. Bim means it this time. The first pane of the comic depicts two men in suits talking. One is standing, holding up his fist. A look of anger and determination is on his face. He says, quote, "Andy, my boy, I've made a momentous decision. I am going to throw down the gauntlet. I'm going to fight Moselle and her crooked lawyer to the bitter end, come what may." The other man replies, "That's the spirit, Bim." End quote. The other man is sitting down and seems rather calm, so it gives the impression that Bim says things like this with some frequency, but perhaps does not pursue cases quite as angrily as he prepares for them.
Yeah, or maybe doesn't follow through at all, potentially.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
We have several modern uses to cover, and we'll get to those right after we say thank you to our sponsors.
This episode is sponsored by our amazing patrons on Patreon. And the cool thing about Patreon is it is 100% free to join the Bunny Trails community. We have new things every weekday on the feeds. On Mondays, we have a conversation about what movies, shows, books, podcasts, and whatever else everyone is enjoying. Tuesdays see early access to the week's podcast. Wednesdays have all the links, books, songs, and other content mentioned in the week's episode. Thursday has patrons-only polls. And Fridays are our lightly edited, behind-the-scenes video featuring all the cut content, goofs, and bonus facts you could imagine.
We've got some other pretty cool stuff too, like original digital artwork once a month made by me, and direct access to talk with us. No algorithms getting in the way of what we see or don't see. Plus, you can get awesome name recognition like Pat Rowe does every episode. And our top spot is currently occupied by the amazing Mary Halsig Lopez. You can join the Bunny Trails community for free at Bunny Trails Pod on Patreon.
That's patreon.com/bunnytrailspod.
Throwing Down the Gauntlet is the title of Season 3, Episode 5 of the TV show Rosalian Isles. The episode aired in 2012. Here's a synopsis. Quote, "While investigating the murder of a young woman found in a dumpster, Jane encourages Mara to find her biological mother. Meanwhile, Angela gets involved in a political campaign." End quote. I feel like any of those items could present a challenge worthy of gauntlet throwing.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I've heard of this TV show.
They're like two female investigators, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, while investigating a murder, yeah, so I assumed.
Well, yeah.
I made a couple of context clue assumptions there. Yeah, no, I don't remember hearing about this TV show. Not that I watch much TV, so.
Right. I mean, I've heard of it, that's the extent, but yeah, it seems kind of cool.
Yeah, usually I would have heard of the shows and would have seen a lot of stuff, and I'll read about the shows, but I just don't normally watch them. I don't have that kind of time.
Well, you know. Malifaux.com is this beautiful place on the internet where a person's verbal slip-up can be enshrined in internet history. The website headline is Malifaux, Unintentional Blended Idioms and Phrases. It's the cream of the cake. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't really think I want my mistakes on blast. However, mixed metaphors and conflated idioms do happen with some frequency. So we'll discuss the mistake one reporter made related to throwing the gauntlet in our behind the scenes, which airs every Friday on our Patreon at patreon.com/bunnytrailspod.
Nice. Malifaux are great, and I can never remember that word because I always try and say malapropism, which is not the same thing. But yeah,
but it's hilarious.
So, yeah, but yeah, that's neat.
Throw the Gauntlet is an installment in the April May Snow Psychic Mysteries Shorts series by M. Scott Swanson. The stories are standalone stories. Here's the synopsis of Throw the Gauntlet. Quote, "Concealing my psychic gifts is exhausting. I'll be happy when my brother Dusty grows up and finds a girlfriend. I'd be grateful for Dusty's offer to help me move if we weren't trading favors. Traipsing around a Renaissance fair is an agonizing price to pay. Epic fail, Mama and I miscommunicated on the dress size, and it leaves me a little exposed. But at least I'm not naked, right? There's nothing left for me to do but own my curvy, sensual side as if I meant to tease the tantalizing knights and wizards at the event. A lunatic poisons the crowd, and a nasty epidemic of Montezuma's revenge wreaks havoc. Sneaky cowards make me madder than a wet hen." If that's not enough to knock the shine off the trip for me, it turns out a little known secret about a ghost in the castle is true. How do I know? Because I'm sleeping in the tortured spirit's room, and she wakes me each night with a blood curdling scream. Assuming we survive this nightmare, Dusty best not give me any lip about my furniture being heavy. End quote.
That was just a wild ride.
I agree. And I'm like, how short is this story? Because I feel like there's a lot going on there. Throw Down the Gauntlet is a 2024 album by the band Amethyst from Switzerland. The tracklist includes songs like Stand Up and Fight, Running Out of Time, Rock Nights, Queen of a Thousand Burning Hearts, and several others. A lot of people have said they have a sort of 70s throwback style, and I really enjoyed listening to them.
Interesting. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah.
We'll include a link to this album on their YouTube channel for on our show notes.
Throwing Down the Gauntlet Freedom Fighter series is an art series featuring a gauntlet that was created by sculptor Kimberly Chapman in 2023. Here's part of the description on her website. Quote, a helmeted cameo with streaming hair signals a female-focused battle. Cameos were once used to commemorate personages associated with battle victories, such as Queen Elizabeth's victory over the Spanish Armada. In this case, the profile personifies every woman and a battle yet to be won. The thorns that line both sides of the gauntlet are protective and represent strength, determination, and courage. Today, women are wading through deep, uncharted waters. They have lost their right to make decisions over their reproductive selves. Now is the time to throw down the gauntlet and reclaim a world with reproductive choice. End quote. Looking at it, the piece must have taken ages to complete. It's pretty intricate. There's a lot of detail and it's really quite lovely, while also carrying quite a heavy and powerful message.
Interesting. And cameo in this case is obviously a carving, right? Or an engraving.
Cameo, a lot of people have probably seen before, but it's a profile and it's usually a relief, meaning that that it's either carved out of something or that it's kind of raised off of a surface. And a lot of times they were made as smaller pieces, necklaces or things like that. And it was just, the profile of a female, bust essentially, like the neck, chest up. And then in profile
Nice.
like what you see on the back side of a coin. In her article on history.com titled, What Does It Mean to Throw Down the Gauntlet?, Elizabeth Harrison discusses the phrase's origin and connection to English royalty. The article was originally published in 2014, but is updated in 2025. Here's an excerpt. Quote, George IV's coronation was the last time the champion actually performed the ceremony of throwing down the gauntlet. 10 years later, William IV made significant cuts when he assumed the throne, and the champion was reduced to more modest duties. At King Charles III's coronation in 2023, there was a champion but no gauntlet throwing. At the 1951 coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, the role of champion, John de Moke, was simply to carry the royal standard. The banquet no longer takes place in Westminster Hall, and modern menus aren't quite so extravagant. End quote.
I don't think I know anything about this.
I mean,
That's interesting.
the coronation's really long. It lasts a really long time.
Well, there's only been one in my lifetime, and that was recently, and I didn't watch it. So,
Yeah, I mean, there have been only two that have been had video coverage, correct?
oh yeah, probably. Actually, now that you say that,
Because I think that was
I
one
don't
of the
know
first
how
things.
Queen Elizabeth II's dad was in office, but is it called an office? I don't know.
No, I think that her coronation was one of the very first things that was kind of broadcast publicly.
Interesting.
Yeah, and people, or at least when people started to actually have TVs, some of them. Anyway, I found a few videos featuring the home cleanser brand from South Africa called Sunlight. Cam X Dell on TikTok said, quote, we took on the greasy gauntlet challenge with Sunlight dishwashing liquid. 3 tough dishes, 1 powerful cleaner. End quote. I like this usage because you could apply more than one meaning to gauntlet. It could be the glove, or it could be the demanding event and task of cleaning a series of tough dishes.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought this was a fun challenge for social media. Just do some dishes. It's such a positive thing. I don't know.
I mean, that sounds awful, but
Well, fair.
and of course, I've not found very many internet challenges that I have personally wanted to do, and this one
Yeah,
is no different.
I, w-
I
I,
don't want
I
to
would
do the
have to
dishes.
agree with you on that, actually. Yeah. Throwing down the gauntlet is a featured topic on tvtropes.org. Here is part of the article. Quote, anybody can get into a fight, but it takes someone very confident, very desperate, or very pissed off to stand up and demand that someone fight them. And it takes a badass to do it with style. This is throwing down the gauntlet, so named for the medieval practice of literally throwing down one's actual gauntlet before the person one wanted to challenge, making it both truth in television and older than print. It can take any number of forms depending on the character and the reason for the challenge. It may include a badass boast or badass creed, a list of the reasons the challenger has for beating the challenged down, and a detailed description of the ways in which the challenge is now doomed. It might be a no more holding back speech in which the challenger explains himself, and now he's reached this point. It might be a calculated effort to goad the challenged into accepting the contest and fighting their hardest, either in order to test them or just because the challenger likes a good fight. Whatever the form, throwing down the gauntlet is the act of challenging someone to a fight or some other competition, preferably in the most badass way possible. This could result in a duel to the death, 10 paces in turn, wizard's duel, if both are wizards, of course, or pretty much any type of fight that has rules involved. End quote.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I
So
I like the idea of throwing down the gauntlet with a wizard's duel where they're not both wizards.
that'd be
Maybe only one
hilarious,
of them
right?
or neither of them even.
Yeah. Like, how does that play out? That'd be interesting. The example they link to is a video clip from the movie Neverending Story, which I say is the movie that did my generation dirty and turned us all into crying little children. Seriously, if you don't cry when you watch it, then I don't think you just don't have a heart. In the clip they reference, though, the hero Atreyu decides to fight Gmork, telling him that he is the warrior he seeks. It's kind of a turning point in the story. It's a good moment.
Cool. I've never seen that movie.
What is wrong with you? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah. Yeah.
can't believe you were raised in the United States in that time frame and didn't see that movie or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I
Aren't you
don't.
an 80s kid?
Yeah. I was. Yes.
Because I think I saw it only because of my older siblings.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. No,
Anyway.
I hadn't- there. I didn't. I didn't see very many movies from the 80s until I was into the 90s, and um, some of them I saw later, on VHS, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, not this one. This isn't one of them that I've seen.
Gah. Okay, you should still watch it.
I don't think I will. At
Eh,
this point, it's like those people that haven't seen The Princess Bride when they're like, "Yeah, I'm just not going to." Then now at this point,
oh, they're wrong.
well, I agree they're wrong because I have seen
And
that movie and it's
and you're
great.
also wrong.
Well, that's fine.
No.
Agree to disagree.
Oh gosh, whatever. Well, throw down the gauntlet has to be one of my favorite phrases that we've covered on the show. I've maybe said it myself a few times, but it's got chops. If you use the phrase, people know you're not playing around. You mean business. And it's been used for a lot of positive fights. By that, I mean it seems to be used more by those who are fighting for something good or just, rather than just their own personal pride. When you're ready to face the things that are in your way in life, go after it, throw down the gauntlet. That's about all we have for today. If you have any thoughts on the show or pop culture references that we should have included, reach out to us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/bunnytrailspod, or comment on our website, bunnytrailspod.com.
All right, it is poll time. Recently, we asked our patrons, if you won the lottery, which of these would be most likely true for you? It was an even split between two of the options. I would only tell my family and friends. And the other option that got votes was I'd keep it quiet and low key for many years. Mary says, quote, my family would know, but I would keep it pretty quiet. I would definitely be giving the kids and grandkids some of the spoils and then invest the rest, making sure everything is left to a trust as well. End quote. Shauna, how would you handle it?
Uh, yeah, I would have to tell someone like a finance investment money manager type person, and I'd tell my best friend because they would probably notice something. And depending on the amount, I might disappear, but not because I'd be hiding. It would be like travel and a bit of a career shift.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would keep it quiet. Kansas allows for winners to accept anonymously, so I would probably the first thing I do before I told anybody else is hire an attorney. And then I would have to get a tax person, and then I would have to check in with my financial planner to see if they could handle that, or if they had someone else they'd recommend if they couldn't. I would like to think there would be no evidence seen from the outside, from someone just looking in. I would paint the house, but that's already on my list of things that needs to be done because it's overdue anyway. So, I'd probably just, I would hire someone because I don't like painting anyway, which is why I haven't done it. So yeah, and there's some siding that needs to be replaced. So I'd probably just go ahead and get a rewrap of the house, and that would probably and a new paint job. So that would probably be the thing that people saw. I'm pretty comfortable with my car. I don't have like a desire to have a different kind of vehicle. I certainly don't want extras of them. Yeah, I would still probably travel a bunch, but it would be for different reasons. Instead of traveling for work, I'd be traveling to go to places that I want to see and things I want to do. So, and I would keep working. I don't think I would quit my job anytime soon. Although I might not work as often.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that might be the thing. I'm a little bit more picky choosy about what I'm doing. So now,
yeah.
one thing that would definitely change for me is that I would have a greater variety of food in my house instead of eating the same budget friendly food items all the time.
Oh, good point. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
so
that
I would
idea.
definitely I would do a
Uh-huh.
little splurge. Maybe, yeah, I might have steak more often, or maybe I'll go out to eat every once in a while a little more often. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, we won't see
We
probably,
will
because
see.
one, I don't ever play the lottery.
And
You have
if
to
you
play to
do,
win,
you're not going to tell anybody.
right? And if I did, yeah. So who
So we
knows?
won't see. Yeah, I think I was kind of framing mine in the like more distant, time frame or whatever of the like maybe disappearing, but that would be a ways away. Initially, like probably uh nobody would notice because I would not know what to do with it, so I would just not. The money would just be that, which is why I would get the money manager person,
Yeah, exactly.
and now I've added to the list the lawyer that you
Yeah, no, that's the
mentioned.
first person I'm
The
contacting.
lawyer, the money manager. And then
Right.
and then from there it'd be like probably a while before I could like I don't even know, make a decision about what I wanted to do.
Sure.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, as a reminder, our silly polls mean absolutely nothing and are not scientifically valid. And patrons of all levels, including our free tiers, can take part. Head over to patreon.com/bunnytrailspod to take this week's poll. Thanks for joining us. We will talk to you again next week. Until then, remember, words
Words
belong
belong
to
to
their
their
users.
users.